Everybody, and welcome to episode 123 of the I Rock Knits podcast. Do I look different? Okay, don't tell me if you don't like them. I think they're really fun, and the frames cost $9. So I ordered the frames, and then I took them to Costco to get the lenses put in. I've already had an interruption. The husband got a talking to. But yeah, I wanted to try this new trend of bigger glasses. And as a creative and a person who loves color, I feel like putting on the same pair of glasses every day is just not filling my need for color and joy. And so I did order another pair. If you take your cheap frames into Costco, their biggest concern is breaking the glasses. So if they break the frames during the process, you know, that's a problem. So if you buy cheap frames, they will usually do it for you, and they charge $25 if you bring them in from the outside. And then I think my lenses were $139, and that is progressives, reflective, anti-scratch, all that stuff. So like my normal glasses over the past few years have gone up and up and up. It used to be like $400 or $500 for the bifocal, and then the, you know, progressive, and then they were $600, and then the last pair were like $800. And Ross just got a new pair of titanium kind of readers for the garage and stuff when he's working out there, because his plastics keep breaking, and his were almost $1,000. And so I just said, you know what, I'm gonna give this Costco thing a try. And these came back, and although quite large, I think they're really fun. They might have been better as sunglasses, so, you know, because they're so big, but it is really, you know, kind of the in thing. So I do have another pair that I ordered because I really just wanted to have kind of a darker pair, a pair that they'll still have bright colors in them, but they're much darker. They're smaller, they're more cat eye shaped, not a traditional cat eye, but with blue, turquoise, and like hot dark pink. There'll be a much darker frame. So I'll have my pink, my orange, and then I'll have this darker pair. And I think that will satisfy me. So I just wanted to talk about it right away up front. The featured designs this week, we have the Legacy Park shawl, which was a shawl that I designed for the shop hop, and that shop now has since gone out of business, which is super sad. Yeah, just really a bummer. The Minnesota Connection shawl, which I designed and won a contest for here in Minnesota for the Minnesota Knitters Guild for Yarn Over. We gave it away at Yarn Over one year, and that is a like wrapped shawl, and it is in one piece, so it doesn't move and doesn't fall off. You just kind of pull it over your shoulders. It has a twist in the front. That's a very fun knit. It has a beautiful cabled panel up the front. And then my Mr. Tom's Field socks were featured this week, as well as my Needles Up Amulet cowl, which was one of the first things I designed while we were doing the book, the first book, Minnesota 52. We went to Rhinebeck. Needles Up was the event with Legacy Fiber Arts, and they were, you know, having their own separate space. They had vendors there. And so I designed a cowl that had little rings around the neck that you could hang like a little stitch marker on, or a little charm or something. And I thought that that was the most brilliant idea at the time. Like, I thought everyone was gonna think that that was just the best idea. Not so much, apparently only me. I still think it's a really cute idea, and I still think it would be really cute on a sweater. So I may need to do that at some point. so that you could just change out and put a little crystal or whatever you liked, you know, your letter, your first name, whatever initial. But those are your patterns for this week. Look what I finished, look what I finished. And I had enough pink yarn, barely. So the sleeves are a little shorter than I would like, traditionally. They're not bad, but I made them longer than the pattern called for, but because I was afraid of running out of the pink and I had to do this pink color work here all the way down, I was just real concerned about not having enough pink. And then I ordered pink from Diane, and I knew once I ordered it, I would have enough yarn, right? Because that's knitter's law. If you don't have a backup plan, then you will run out. But I did order more pink. I didn't know if it would come and be the exact same colorway, you know, dye lots situation. So I did shorten the sleeves a little bit. And then I thought, you know, I have 50,000 Gudrun Schoden dresses, 10 maybe, over the years. And I thought, they're all my color, right? Not one went with this sweater. Not one did I like. Even though I will wear pattern on pattern, I didn't like them. So I wore it with white capri jeans. I got Chico's capri white pull-on denim kind of jeans with little like frayed bottoms and a white shirt that stuck out. And I was so hot, and so I was just like, I need a dress. So I ordered an orange sleeveless linen dress from Gudrun Schoden, and that came this week, and I wore it last night. Right now, I just have shorts on because it's blessed hot, and I'm going to puppy playtime next, so I did not put my dress on. I just have on some capri, like legging short things, because I'm going to put a t-shirt on as soon as this is over. But yes, this is going to be the sweater of the week this week. Does this sweater have multiple problems in the pattern? Absolutely. Did a ton of people knit it with success? Absolutely. So there was some controversy there. The actual picture pictured it to be a crew neck, and then where people were knitting it, it turned out to be a funnel neck. And I'm wondering if that didn't happen in the sizing up of the pattern. As the size got bigger, the neck got longer. Kaylin Hunter is a knitwear designer who has a background in like fashion. Like, she has a fashion degree. Not all designers have a fashion degree, so she understands sizing, and I don't know why she never really went back and kind of addressed the issues that people said they were having. Some of the funnel necks came way up, and they kind of looked like this instead of even being wide and coming up. So I had to do a lot of fudging. So I purchased this yarn at ZK from Diane of Suburban Stitcher, except the orange, which I ended up swapping out. I've talked about that story. But in like 2018, then in 2019, I cast on and realized that the neck was an issue. So then I put it in time out, thinking she will address this problem and then I won't have to. Though the problem, as far as I know, has never been addressed. There's never been an update made to the pattern. And as I said, a lot of people have made it, and some with success and others not so much, where they had to cut the neck off after they finished the sweater and then re-knit the ribbing on. So I know enough about knitwear design that I could rework the neck. So I did a crew neck with short rows. This was a DK weight yarn. I followed one of my sport weight patterns, which is my Knitwords sweater, is a sport weight crew neck yoked sweater with the words on it, but the neckline I could just use, right? If I just fudged the numbers, because I knew that there were short rows in the back that was gonna have it lay nice, and I did much fewer rows right here just to keep it nice. Now, I will say, this sweater has a ton going on. So, if you can see here, we've got all this color work. So you're carrying color this entire way. Like, there are very few plain rest rows in this sweater. So it's a very busy sweater, and it takes a lot of time to knit, a lot of time to knit. So I kind of re-picked it up in January and said, we're going to Arizona. This is the sweater I'm taking. This is what I'm going to work on. And I got there and I got down to here and I didn't like the green and the blue color that I had chosen. It just didn't have enough contrast. And so then I went to the yarn store in Arizona and purchased a DK weight skein of orange. I almost went with purple. I'm really happy I went with the orange, but I would have rearranged the colors had I known I was going to do orange, but I wasn't starting over at that point, right? So then I went down and I got to here and I used orange and gold here and the contrast wasn't high enough. I didn't think. So then I let that sit for a while and then I ripped it back. I just didn't want this sweater to become gold and blue because I taught at a high school that the colors were blue and gold for 17 years. So I do not have an affinity for those colors anymore. And this isn't the same blue, but it's close, right? It was royal, but I knew I was gonna run a pink yarn and I didn't want the bottom of my sweater to have all the little lice to be pink and gold or blue and gold all the way down. There were just so many decisions to be made. And I think it all just started with this negative thing in my head that the neck was off. And so it kind of carried through for the whole sweater about all the decisions I made. I just had to keep like adjusting and adjusting. And so I just decided I just needed to finish this. And I love knitting color work. And it does have a lot of graphic, design elements to it. But I will have put a picture in here, hopefully. And I don't think that I can recommend the pattern to anyone because you do have to rework the neck. Like now I'm knitting an upper size, so I probably knit this in the 44 maybe, because it is very fitted and it is meant to be cropped. So it is meant to be a cropped sweater that you wear like with a dress or high-waisted jeans with your midriff showing. Not gonna happen. So so it's shorter. So if you are willing to take a chance on the neck, I think I'm just guessing that the smaller sizes are probably okay. But I could totally tell when I started knitting that my neck was gonna be too long. And when it's a short sleeved crop sweater and you're gonna wear it spring and summer, you don't want a neck that's coming up, even if it's a crew that's up here that you would be willing to wear in the fall. Okay, so this is the Soldotna, 4 colors. I'm really happy with the way it turned out. I've worn it a couple times already. I wore it to dinner last night with friends, one of whom was a knitter. And yeah, I do like the color a lot and I got some new shoes to wear with it. I may as well no, I'll wait. I gotta keep this organized because 3 of our sections that we're gonna do today all go together. And so if I jump around, it's gonna be a hot mess express, okay? I have a new pattern release. So Thursday, June 1st, I decided to finally, after months and months of waiting, release my Wear It With Pride hat for Pride month, and all of the proceeds from the pattern are going to go, except for my expenses, are going to go to all of my profits. Let's put it that way. All of my profits from the pattern, all the rest of the proceeds are going to the Trevor project, which I designed my Trevor project hat and cowl in 2021 and sold that. And so I did do the donation there. I was hoping to really be able to up my donation this year. My goal was to try to, get that $500 mark. So the hat is for sale for $10, which seems like a lot, but I want to make a big donation. So I do have a coupon code that is out there. It went out in the newsletter, and it is also on the Ravelry project page that if you use the code PRIDE on Ravelry, you'll get $6 off. So you ended up buying the pattern for only $4. And I think that hits a really nice sweet spot for people, that those who are able can jump in and do $10 and feel like the whole donation's going, for something very important and near and dear to my heart. But then those of you who would love to buy the pattern but don't have the means, can get it for $4, and you know, your donation will also go. So I'm hoping that I kind of found a happy medium there. So this is the little itty bitty pride hat. Isn't it cute? I used a shepherd's wool from Stonehenge Fiber Mill in Michigan, and I had done an owl sweater in similar colors out of the yellow, orange, red, and I like my rainbow like this. I know it's not a traditional rainbow, and I think that that's what's kind of cool about the fact is that the pride rainbow is becoming bigger and bigger, longer. It includes more colors, so we have pink and white and brown as well. And so I could have tried to include all the colors of some of the pride flags, but I just think rainbow is just such a iconic pride theme, but to not do it in the rainbow order, I thought might be kind of fun. So I did yellow, orange, red. So I kind of went from lightest and then purple, blue, green, and just used the 6 colors instead of, you know, the traditional Roy G. Biv. And then I have it in a larger adult. So this whole thing down here is knit 2, purl 2. So knit 2 in your color, purl 2 in the gray, knit 2 color, purl 2 gray. And then when you get to here, it changes to knit 2, knit 2, knit 2, knit 2, knit 2, knit 2, which provides a little bit of a tighter fit hat, but because you're carrying color that entire way, this is a warm hat. This is a great warm winter hat. You're carrying color the whole thing, so it's double thickness the whole way up. And you could do ribbing the whole way or corrugated 2x2 stockinette the whole way. If, you know, this is just the way I decided to do it. I just think it's super graphic. And then here is the one that has the pom-pom. So I have like the small, medium, and large. And then I took all of the colors and made, of course I didn't use the gray, made the pom-pom to coordinate. And then I've shared this a number of times, but some of you are new. So here's the way we attach our pom-poms. We use a button, a large button, and then we pull our pom-pom strings through the button and tie it down. Then that keeps your pom-pom from ever flopping around. You don't get a floppy, the hat is flopping, but not the pom-pom, okay? I don't know how to show that. It's really, it looks like it's flopping and it's not. It's just really secure. Then you can untie the pom-pom if for chance the hat gets super dirty or sweaty. If you're working outside and your head sweats or whatever, and you do kind of want to wash the hat, you can take the pom-pom off because the button is just holding the pom-pom there. So I am going to implore each one of you to buy this pattern. Whether or not you ever want to knit a rainbow hat, I really want to make the biggest donation ever. The Trevor Project is become a bigger organization, but it really is. They man a 24-hour crisis hotline for kids who are questioning, who are worried, who are sad, who are scared, who are thinking their lives aren't worth anything. They feel that they might be gay or trans or bi or whatever, and they can call and they can get hooked up with someone who can help them, who can speak the language, who can just talk them through their feelings one way or the other. It's just an amazing organization, and they do all kinds of outreach, and you can go to the trevorproject.org and find out a ton more, but I just really want to support that. I posted a quote on Instagram this week, and it says, "Pride is important because someone out there tonight believes that they are better off dead than being themselves." And the first time I saw that, it just, as a former high school teacher who lost students to suicide, it just breaks my heart that any child or adult, but would consider taking their own life and not have someone to reach out to and talk to. So this is so near and dear to my heart. And I would really love it if everyone would go purchase the pattern for $4 or $10, or if you have means to buy also the Trevor Project hat and cowl from 2 years ago. If you did not, that is a $10 pattern as well, but you get both the hat and the cowl. And I will put a picture in that. That hat has a little band, a little kind of I-cord flat band around it. And so does the cowl. It's kind of ribbed. It's kind of a ribbed look. But yeah, so far sales have been amazing. I just, and I'm getting lots of feedback. It did go to #1 on Ravelry. Posting about this hat and doing some pride awareness and things has caused me to lose some followers on Instagram. And I think that is so sad that someone can look at a knitting pattern, a rainbow knitting pattern, and say, I don't want to follow this person anymore. I just think, you know, just hard. It's just really hard to understand that, and it isn't about followers, right? Like gay kids have it way worse than me losing a few followers. But the fact that I could see that I lost some followers in the 2 days that it has been Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, it's recording Sunday afternoon, you know, that you would decide that you can't follow someone because they made a hat to support kids is just, yeah, so hard for me to understand. It's been an emotional couple of days for me. I'm watching people buy it, and I'm, you know, so thankful. And the fact that you also have people who, I haven't had any negative comments, but I think people mostly know that I won't put up with that, right? Like, we don't have to be mean to one another. Sorry. I'm emotional, so I may not be speaking very well, and I don't know why. I do know why. I'm so emotional. I've been crying for days. It's part of my medical journey. Maybe we'll get to that today. It's a whole other thing. But anyway, I have my 3 little hats here, and they make me so happy. Just all the colors. And I had a number of testers do them in beautiful colorways that were not rainbow. They used their stash. Do not expect people to go out and buy rainbow yarn. I did post on Instagram and in my stories, and did a post about yarns that you can find that are that you could use for this if you want rainbow minis or rainbow yarn sets at a lesser price. I posted that. There were a number of places that have minis, and someone did a really beautiful one. I don't want to call it one of my tester sweaters is gorgeous. I just think it's so, I mean, all my testers are awesome, but there's a really pretty color combination. So anyway, all right. You want to know what else I finished this week? It's laying right here. Look at my A.N.T hat. Look at this. It's like a magic. It's a pink hat. Well, no, it isn't. It's an orange hat. So this is the A.N.T, a new take hat. I don't know why it's called that. I wish there was an explanation on why, because you have to put in capital A period, capital N period, capital T period on Ravelry to get it. But this is knit with Mayak lace weight yarn held double. It is soft and luxurious, and it's going to be super warm because it's made out of yak. Has 4 decreases at the top. I made mine a little bit smaller because I thought that the circumference of the finished object was a little big for my head. And then I noticed on Ravelry that some of them looked a little oversized. So I did go down on my stitch count, and those notes are on my project page, but that does affect your decreases on the top of your hat. So basically you provisionally cast on right here, and you cast on, and then you knit a hat, do your decreases, then you go back and you take out your provisional cast on, and you knit another hat. And this is pretty fine weighted yarn. I'm gonna say it's probably knitting up at about a fingering weight gauge. It's lace held double. So it's a lot of knitting. I carried this in my purse for quite a while. It was so lovely to work with. And then you just fold it in half, stick it in, one inside the other. So this would make a great hat for anybody. You could do it in one color, you could do it in, you know, other colors, but the original hat was in this orange and pink. I couldn't look any better for me, right? So yeah, that's the A.N.T. Then I had finished this cowl, this little orange owl cowl. I'm teaching this as a class. I've taught this as a class before. It's learning how to cable or learning how to cable without a cable needle. So this is just that little simple owl pattern. It's an owl cowl, and I had some yarn left over and I thought, oh, I'll make a coordinating hat. I did put beads in this one for the eyes, and I have some notes on my project page about how I did that and how you should not do it. It has to do with how this this is worked. It's knit 2, purl 2, knit 2, purl 2, knit 2 right there. And so I wanted that eye to be centered, and if I put that eye on bead on one of those 2 middle stitches, I thought that wouldn't work. So I tried to pull both stitches through each bead, and these beads are too small for that. And I fought. I was like, I am not giving up. This is a good idea. Yeah, no, not a good idea. Because then I had to pull it through, and then I had to knit 2 stitches on the other side, and it's pulled through a bead, so that stitch is tight. Would not recommend. Does it look great? Yes, but would not recommend. So then I cast on the hat, and I just did kind of the same thing. This is not blocked, and oopsie daisy. Ran out of yarn, and I kind of knew I was going to, and now I just wish I would have taken some of this off the bottom, and I could have taken a row or 2 off the bottom of this, and I would have had enough. So I did reach out on Ravelry to someone who might have this colorway. This is an old skein of yarn from my stash. It's FiberNymph Dye Works, and that is Lisa, and I probably bought it at ZK a number of years ago. You know, I'm just looking at this, and I crossed these cables all wrong the whole way. Oh my lands. Cori, what? Oh. How do you not see that? Look at my owls. That's not how they're supposed to look. They're supposed to look like this. You're supposed to... Well, it'll go a lot faster ripping it out than it did knitting it. Oh my Lord, that is hilarious. Well, I can probably save myself some yarn right down here. Can you even? And I did it. I didn't do it at the top. I just did it in the body, but it's so obviously wrong. I can't show this in a class where I'm going to teach it. Like, seriously? Oh, dear, dear, dear. Does anybody want a hat? If Lisa, so I contacted Lisa and just said, hey, if you happen to have this colorway available, I will, purchase the skein, and then I will just like cinch this up or bind it off, and someone can wear it as a cowl. I don't need to reknit this whole thing. Just, yeah, I could probably just, it could be I don't know what it could be. It could be a pot holder. Look at my hat, you guys. Aren't you inspired by me as a knitter in this moment? Oh, that's so funny. Okay, I hope you were all laughing. And I'm laughing, otherwise I would cry. FiberNymph Dye Works yarn. I'll just make it in another color. It's not that big a deal. Did not take that long. And I found this really cute pom that I had previously bought, and isn't that gonna look cute on there? Like, won't that look cute on there? I know they don't look terrible, you guys, but it isn't the pattern. And it doesn't match the cowl. I know the owls don't look terrible. They're not right. Plus I fought with those beads too because I thought they had to match. Okay. Knit a colorwork sweater. Screw up a hat. What else are you gonna do? Okay, let's talk about the sweaters of the week. I'm gonna talk about the sweaters. I'm gonna talk about the design process because as one of the questions of the week this week, I'm also getting a question. Thank you to the person who went in and put several questions in there for me because I didn't have any questions, but I do have a question, Polly's question from previously, where I'm going to talk over the next few weeks about each different type of color work. But yeah, so we're going to talk about kind of designs and then along with these sweaters, answer that person's question. Okay. So one of the questions that I get asked often is, how did you get started in designing? And I think a lot of people would like to make money in the knitting business, right? I had a lady just the other day. I don't think she watches the podcast regularly, but she had watched it or something, and she reached out and she said, can I quit my job and do a knitting podcast and make money? And I said, absolutely not. Don't tell that to anybody, because I've been doing this for 4 years and YouTube will pay you once you make $100 and I don't have a check yet. So yes, if you have thousands and thousands of followers who watch you often, not just your subscribers, but they watch, because I have a lot of minutes watched, but I don't have nearly enough subscribers to make, I mean, you know, you can make a little bit, but you cannot make a living. Similarly, lots and lots of people out there would like to design a pattern. Go for it, right? You want to design a pattern, you have an idea, you have something new and novel, go for it. Is it worth your time and energy? And will you make money at it? No. There are about 10 designers in the, 12 maybe, I think. The last time Ravelry posted the top earners, which they don't do very often, but because they don't do it by name, they just, there are, 10 or 12 people who make a lot of money designing knitting patterns. But most designers, you just have to sell a lot of patterns at $6 a pattern. So how do you get started? Like, how do you make your first design? And then what is your design process? Or the question is, how do you work through a problem in the design or when you have a hiccup or something that's, happening? So when I first started designing, I did felted bags, right? Felting was like the craze. Everyone was felting everything. And I saw my first felted bag on a woman who had not taken a class or didn't know how to do it. She just kind of made it up, and she was in a knitting shop, and I was like, how did you do it? And she said, I don't know, and I just threw it in the washer. And it was right at the beginning of that whole craze, and so I just started writing bag patterns, and I have a ton of free felted bag patterns on Ravelry. If you ever go, if you scroll back far enough, there are a ton, and they're still for free out there. So I started writing knitting patterns before. This is pre-Ravelry. I was living in Virginia. I didn't have a job because we had moved in the middle of September, right after September 11th, 2001. So I started writing up these knitting patterns, and then I had to print them out and put them in plastic sleeves and take a picture and glue it on. Talked about all that before. But then I just, you start to move forward and you say, well, am I going to design anything else? Am I going to only do felted bags? And mostly I was doing felted bags because I was teaching felting classes. So at there were 3 local yarn stores in the Virginia area, and I was just teaching classes on felting. And I really wanted to get my foot in the door at those places. So I would have all my felted bags and they would display them, and then people would take the classes. So kind of one of the ways that I started was I want a particular sweater. So I want to use this yarn. And this is like a brown and white marbled yarn in an alpaca blend. It's super soft and drapey, so it's not going to be like a regular sweater. It's very loose and flowy. And I want to figure out how to make a kind of a winter sweater, a turtleneck. And so I get out some books and I kind of look at different books and can't quite find the gauge, and I just kind of do it. I make myself a sweater. I do a top-down raglan. I try it on a lot, and I come up with this sweater, which I never turned into a pattern. It was just kind of my first attempt at getting through a sweater. And then I make the decision to up that to, here's a design idea I have. Can I turn this, which is just kind of working through my own numbers. I'm not sizing this for a bunch of sizes. I kind of looked at some books and some patterns, but Ravelry wasn't there. Like, I couldn't go print out a pattern with a bunch of sizes. And then the sizes have changed so much since this time. And then I did this pattern for myself. And this is also kind of got an alpaca blend yarn, and it has a cable down the front, down the sleeves, at the neck, and at the waist. And this never became a pattern. It was folded, so it has some creases in it, and I tried to kind of spray it, but you can't do cables without purls on either side, right? You have to set cables off with purls. But I didn't want to follow that rule because I don't love reverse stockinette and I don't love garter stitch. And so I wanted to do cables that were more subtle. Now down here, I have a rib down here, but I changed this to this. And this is a rolled turtleneck that then I bound off along the edge. I'll try to take a close-up picture of that. And I added the cables into that section. So I took an idea after knitting kind of a sweater on my own, coming up with my own, measuring my own gauge for my own sweater on a shirt that I might have had where I measured it, and then I decided to put some features in it. You see how it also has just kind of this subtle cable, and then it has like a cabled cuff. I really should write this up because it's quite pretty. It's super soft, and it is just a top-down raglan, but I never did actually, and these are what you would consider a prototype, right? You might have made a mistake here or there. You might have not done it exactly how you would like to do it, but it's how you start to move toward a design. So you have all done this before, right? You want to make a hat, you have some yarn, you don't really have a pattern. You're like, well, I cast on 100 stitches usually, and you just do it, right? You do your ribbing and you do a hat, and then you decrease at the top, and you just kind of, you don't necessarily always need a pattern. I think sock knitters are really good at this. They start to figure out like what they like, what heel they like, what cuff down, toe up, number of stitches. Is it going to be 56, 60, 64, 68? For a long time I was a 68. I was like the oddball out. Everyone was doing 64, and I'm like, how can everyone have 64? Like, there have to be some people whose feet are wider or thinner that would, like a different number. And I used 68 for a long time for my number for my socks. But sock knitters kind of have that plain vanilla, and if they wanted to put a little cable on the outside of the ankle, like, they could do it. And so that is kind of how it started for me, is just slowly working my way into a little design at a time, trying to always be creative and do something that was different, but you're never going to design something that no one's ever seen before. Like, have we ever seen a sweater with a cable down the front? Absolutely. Has there been somebody that did cable at the neck? I'm sure. At the waist? I'm sure. But I did think that doing it without the panel, the little ribbed panel, would be interesting. And then these just get put away, right? Like, I wear them or don't wear them, and they just get put away, and I don't really ever publish them. Hadn't got to that point yet where I felt super comfortable. And then my very first pattern that I ever designed and put out on Ravelry was my chimney hat. And I literally thought, if you can make a flat hat, it could be a square and it could look like a chimney at Christmas time. And we were working on the book and it was going to be my first pattern. And I was just like, I'm going to give it a go. And then I did a little I-cord trim around that chimney hat. And that first thing that you put out is so nerve-wracking, right? You're just so worried about, you know, has it been approved and what are people going to think? And that pattern has done fairly well for me because it is unique. You don't see a lot of other ones like it. And now I did the chimney socks years later because I'd always planned to do that. I think it'd be really cute to do a red sweater at Christmas time with brick sleeves, but you know, I can carry a theme a little too far. Right? Words, all the words on all the things, which I'm going to talk about today. I have another thing I'm doing. But, you know, that's kind of how I move forward. Now, I have a new design coming out, and I have some issues with it, so I thought this would be the perfect thing. So this is for fall. I'm going to tell you a big secret here. I am doing a sweater design for Michelle of Woolens and Nosh, and she and I were talking. And you usually would do what you would do would be a proposal. And so I just got proposal calls for Miss Babs and proposal calls for, what magazine is it? Pom Pom. And, you know, I have to decide whether or not I want to submit a proposal. And so here is a proposal that I did. And this is the design idea that I had. So I'm going to do a little short sleeve sweater. These are the colors I want to do it in. And then this is how you would style it. These are the colors that are similar. You might wear that underneath it. And then you write up your blurb. It has to be all in one page. And you have to say, you know, put your inspiration, what the description is, what the yarn is, what the gauge will be, what sizes you're going to make it at. And then you submit it. And then they get back to you and they say, no, we're not taking that, which is what happens most of the time. Or they say, yes, okay, you have 6 weeks to write the pattern, knit the thing, and get it back to us, right? Like you get a deadline and you have to turn it around and you have to get it, you know, perfect. It has to be tech edited and test knit, and you have to, so publishing with some of those big design names can be really difficult to get your foot in the door. But it is a good skill set to know, to understand that this is what you have to do. And this can be my biggest hiccup to the person who's asking, is getting rejected. Like, I spent a ton of time. Like, I have an idea. It's a good idea. It's going to be really cute. Do you want it? No. And sometimes I'll send 6 design ideas, 6 different proposals, and I will have spent time, and I am not an artist, right? So I will draw it, but I don't always have a body. Sometimes I have a body with arms and legs kind of showing. Sometimes I just draw the hat or the scarf. And if I have a stitch pattern, you have to attach the stitch pattern. A lot of places want a gauge swatch of what the fabric will look like. So this is stockinette, or a little bit of corrugation, but so I didn't have to have that, but that can be a huge hiccup, is just the rejection of an idea that you think is really good. So here are all the ideas that I found that were in a folder to make this. So here's the first one. So that's where the idea is kind of coming from, but in different colors. And this is like 60s mod, right? Like, I want to do squares on a sweater. I don't know if I want it to be all over. It could also be like just on the yoke, or could I do for some people, they could do it on the yoke, and other people, they could do it on the body if this wasn't sticking together. So see, you've got that kind of same geometrical look on this one. And then you've got a shirt that's kind of got that same, it's all kind of based on boxes, squares, ideas for, you know, a sweater. And I just go out and whenever I see something that really appeals to me, that kind of catches my eye, I will put it in a folder. I don't always print them all out, but for today I printed all these and I stuck them in the folder. So I asked Michelle and I said, hey, what do you think about this? It's not gonna look necessarily in the end like you're wearing a 1960s sweater. It's just where the inspiration comes from for the color. And she said yes. So then we had a meeting and we had to pick the colors. And I probably shouldn't show these, but I just wound them all up because I'm ready to start. And I'm not a black or a gray gal, but I need a dark background. So we're gonna do brown. This is gonna be a fall sweater. You're not gonna be surprised by any of these colors because I needed a bunch, right? So I said to Michelle, we're gonna have to go with but Michelle has tons of shades of everything, right? So Michelle can do light blue and dark blue and green and all the colors. I think that's it. So we have all these colors that are gonna be boxes on the yoke of a sweater, maybe rectangles, but I have to start the prototype. And then I have to knit and rip until, or I can do a big swatch piece, but this is gonna be striped with boxes to kind of get the idea. So the next thing I could have is a big hiccup. So this is DK weight yarn, and she will do kits and she will have multiple colors. She just picked colors for me, right? Because it's really hard to design in yarn you don't love, colorways that you don't love. You really want to design in colorways that you love. And we did go round and round on the gold and the orange, a couple of lighter, darker. Michelle was leaning not as poppy as me. She's really good at color. But, she was like, well, could we go with more of a pale green? And so we tried a couple of pales with some pops and it just wasn't working as well. So now I'm going to start this kind of prototype of knitting this up. And I have numbers from sweaters that I've already knit, right? So or already designed. So I have a sport weight sweater, a DK weight sweater that I've already designed. So I can go back to my own numbers for my neckline. What kind of neckline do I want on this sweater? And the question is basic, right? What do? I cry. I get really bogged down when something goes wrong on anything I knit. I don't like to deal with it. I don't like to deal with the problem. And so even for me, as I love to start new projects, I don't like to start new designs. I've been fussing around with this, the colors, the pictures, the prototype, the yarns for 2 months. And have I cast on that darn neck yet? Because I just get a little up in my head about the process of how to get it going. And I could have problems every 2 inches. I might not like my color choices. I might not like my numbers. It might be too tight. It might be too small. I do think I'm going to keep it short sleeve for the fall, but and I'm hoping that I can get it done in June. That's my goal, because I will have to have it test knit in multiple colors and tech edited. And then, the summer will be over and the sweater needs to be done. I should have probably done it in May, but I had a couple things I needed to finish up, and I don't like to have too many projects because I was doing the blankets, and then I have a couple of other things that are coming out. So, but it can really bog you down. I have had designs that have bogged me down for a year where I didn't get them done because it kind of stops me in my tracks, and then it boils in the back of my brain for a long time. I think about it when I go to bed. I think about it in the shower, and it's just kind of back there. And usually I'll figure out my fix for it, how I want to fix whatever has happened with it. But I thought this is a good, I had these 2 sweaters and I only have 2 more left. I had these 2 sweaters over there, and I was like, I don't know if I want to share them. They're not really on Ravelry, but I do have pattern inspiration linked. So this is a Knitting Pure and Simple bulky pattern, this side, that I kind of started with, but my gauge wasn't quite right. And then this was from Knitting Simple Sweaters from Luxurious Yarns book. So this is an alpaca yarn. So I was using some ideas from that book for this one. But it was all part of my kind of learning process to become somebody who wanted to even design a sweater. Sweaters are a lot harder to design. You don't make much more money. Fewer people buy them because they can't knit them fast enough. But there are thousands and thousands and thousands of hats on Ravelry. And your sweater might be seen better. So a lot of it is just kind of knowing the market and kind of trying to break into the market. I see people calling for testers all the time. Can't find testers, especially in the bigger sizes. It's hard. And that can totally be a hiccup. If you can't test your top 5 sizes because you can't find a single tester, I try to have 2 testers for every size for every single thing I do. And I'm super fortunate because I have a huge list of people who enjoy testing for me. And are very, very willing. But not everyone has that either. I think I could kind of go on and on here in the answer to this question, but you've got, here's my notes. Let's talk design work. Proposals, ideas, prototype, sizing. And then the note behind that says, currently 26 designs on my to-do list. In my phone, I keep my design folder of things that, here's my design work list. And here they all are. I have so many design ideas. And I can maybe do 1 or 2 at a time if I'm lucky. So that's just funny that that's in there. But that's what I have going on. And so I came up with a concept, an idea, kind of how I want it to look. I want it to be graphic, but then I don't want it to make the body look wide. Although I have a wider body, but I don't want huge horizontal stripes. I want them to kind of blend. And so I have a ton of work to do to get this sweater, ready. But like I said, a lot of it, and I have a whole folder full of notes and cast on and sizes, and the pattern is here. It's getting written because I can write before I knit a lot of it. It's just now the graphic part. I have to figure out the chart, and then I should be able to kind of move forward, but that can bog me down too. I cannot have a box that is 30 stitches wide on this sweater. Can't be a box that's 30 stitches wide, because then every size has to jump up by 30 stitches because you can't have a half a box. So the reason that most motifs on colorwork sweaters are small repeats is because it's easier to size, right? I just can't do, which is why on the knit word sweaters, I couldn't do the words sweater for everybody, because you'd have half a word, because some of the words were so long. So it would only work if you had short little things that can repeat over and over again as you size up to the next size. Does that make sense? So you have to think about that before I even start. I know my boxes cannot be wide boxes. They have to be rectangles, and I can make them as tall as I want, but I have to figure out how many stitches do I want in between them. If I only put 1 stitch in between, it's going to recede and they're going to almost look like they're on top of each other, all those things. So anyway, I do love talking about knitting. Obviously, after 4 years on the podcast. Okay, we did the sweaters, my finished objects. Okay, I do have that other question of the week to do. And so Polly asked about what was the difference between stranded colorwork and Fair Isle. And we talked about that last week at length. But then I also mentioned that there are about 5 types of colorwork that people recognize as a thing. So Bohus stickning is a type of colorwork. Bohus sweater kind of depends on what accent you're using. I do think it's Bohus. Came into being in 1939 and lasted until about 1969, although that there are people today that still knit those types of sweaters. But a woman named Emma Jacobson decided that she could have women knit sweaters and sell them kind of in a higher end market to make money. And it was kind of like relief work, kind of like a co-op of today. And she was from the Bohuslän district, and so that's where it got its name. And then she would pay the women, and they could stay home and be with their children. But it was a very complicated type of knitting that they really were only doing in Sweden at the time. And she kind of founded this. So she was a wife of a governor, and was a very good designer, right? Like, so she could do this kind of higher end, and then they sold them only in kind of the nicer stores and establishments. And it really wasn't until that stopped being kind of what we would maybe call a cottage industry that we got the patterns so that you can actually knit them today, and you can buy them in the kit. The yarn is usually quite fine, lace weight to fingering weight. And it uses color work as well as purl stitches to make these stitches have depth. The women would knit the sweaters in beautiful yarns, and it would all happen in Gothenburg, and then they would have to send the sweater in, and it would get inspected before it would be able to go and be sold, right? So they all had to have the correct gauge, the correct kind of pattern. So there were a certain number of patterns that they would repeat, and they were mostly yoked sweaters, often done in kind of an Angora mohair fuzziness. There is now a huge collection on display that you can go see. And it did travel for a while, and it came here to Minneapolis, and it was at the Swedish Institute. So you could go and see these beautiful sweaters that have been knit, but you can also knit them now. And once you see one, you will know what it is. So that's kind of the second kind of color work, poly. That is not Fair Isle, but it is stranded color work. It's just a subset. It's a type of stranded color work, but completely different than like, and someone might call it Fair Isle. Like they might see a sweater and say, oh, that's beautiful Fair Isle. But it's not from the Fair Isle Islands, and it doesn't have those kind of 5 colors that kind of gradiate in stripes. This one is softer and gentler, and usually is just done on the yoke. But there's also a hat version. I have someone in my knitting group who knit a sweater and now is doing the hat. And it took her almost a year to knit the sweater. I mean, it's fine gauge yarn, beautiful patterning, but lots and lots of knitting. Okay, I'm changing this segment. The name of this segment is now Confessions of a Woman Who Shopped. I got new shoes. Do you guys want to see my new shoes? Are they not great? Oh, they're so cute, right? My friend came over, and one was sitting out and the other one was sitting in the box. And she looked at him and she goes, oh, I definitely think this one. And I said, no, I'm not picking. They don't match. They're not supposed to match. And of course, this is my choice. I'm not picking this choice. So they are by Charlotte Stone. They are a tennis shoe with a thick, kind of a thick bottom, very comfortable, very high quality, little suede bumper back here. Just ordered a second pair in all orange, kind of a shiny orange, kind of, no, shinier than this, shinier and brighter. A lighter orange, but poppier, brighter, anyway. Because I love them so much. They're so comfortable. I have to almost always wear a tennis shoe. Talked about this before. I almost always wear Birkenstock since I had my surgery on my left foot. And so I saw these, I wasn't sure. I did purchase raised arches and stuck them in, even though this does have an arch. My left foot needs more, so it doesn't roll in. I had flat feet before, and now it's even flatter. And then it just makes my whole gait and my back off when I walk funny like that. So I just thought you guys would appreciate this, right? Look at these with my sweater and my new orange linen dress. And my new glasses. Oh, and my new earrings. I got new orange. Oh, I might have to take a close-up picture. There we go. They're like orange citrine. I got them at Zales. Confessions of a woman who shopped. I've just been on a roll. Oh, I mean, I'm kind of a shopper anyway, but boy, I've been kind of on a roll. The tablecloth came for the deck. It's amazing. And yesterday we hung the lights on my deck. So for Christmas, I asked for lights. You know those ones that everybody has? The black ones that have like little things that hang down, little bulbs that hang down? Well, it's been 2 years and I've wanted little lights. I love Christmas lights. I love lights on my deck when I look out in the winter and the snow, and I have red lights out there. And I just knew that I would love, I'm such a night owl and I like looking out and seeing that there are some little, you know, twinkle lights or whatever out there. And so we hung the lights yesterday. We've had them since Christmas in the basement, and we should have done it in March when it was cool out, cold even. It was so hot on the deck yesterday. And we were pulling the table and rearranging. I have a rolling garden cart thing, but my tomatoes are in, and we're moving things around, and Ross is on a ladder in every corner putting a pole, and we had 100-foot light, and we were trying to figure out how to go 1 corner, 2 corners, 3 corners, 4 corners, and across the middle without having to do one twice, so that the plug would be in the right spot. We'd end up at the right spot, and the lights were kind of tangled, even though they came in like an oval. As I started to pull them out, so I had to lay them, and I was so worried we're gonna break one. And then, is anybody else buying, I don't ever talk about cosmetics on here because whatever, I wear makeup, I wear hair products, whatever. Oh yeah, let's talk about that. So several people really like my hair and really like short hair and say, but you can wear short hair, you know, you can wear short hair. Well, here's the deal. The way to wear short hair is to know how to style it. Because short hair on a lot of people can make people look like they're just a head. They don't have hair, right? And so I took a couple pictures. So here's a picture of me before drying my hair. And my hair is flat to my head, and there is no like volume. And I have like, this is almost shaved on the sides right now. But this is what I do. For all of you or those of you who have shorter hair, and you don't have any volume, dry your hair upside down. So bend over, dry your hair, and then stand up. It should be like standing almost straight up. Then take a skinny little round brush and round brush a little bit of the ends, just a little bit, and especially on your flat spot right back here, that you have a little cowlick that makes you look like the old ladies in church who can't comb the back of their hair anymore, and you're sitting behind them in the pew, and they have that. And then you have to put some product in, and then you have to zhuzh it up. So a quarter of gel in my hands, and then I go like this, choo, 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 choo. And you get it bigger than you want it, right? Because 5 to 10 minutes later, you kind of settle into a spot where you've got some height. I see women all the time who have cute short haircuts, but it's obvious that they just let their hair dry and they just don't have any volume, and they look kind of flat, you know, just kind of flat. And I think I have 2 tricks for that. And my hairstylist will always say, Cori, just mess it up and then finish getting ready. Do your makeup, brush your teeth, put your clothes on, and then come back and see if it hasn't like settled into like volume but not finger in a light socket. Works every time. Okay, so for those of you who want your hair, and like I said, mine is going to grow it a little bit because we went really short just to get rid of some of the brown, because I really want to try to see if I can go more gray. And so, yeah, so see, I'm getting lots of gray coming in over here, so that's good. But another thing, so I got a new product. This is Thrive, and this is like moisturizer. It's just a moisturizer. But I like the Thrive products. They're really good. You know, they have a good footprint. I like all that. So I use like their eye pencil and their little eyeliner. And so I ran out of moisturizer. I've been using Rodan & Fields for years, but I loved like 2 of their products, but you had to buy the package every time. So I had this whole package. It took me a year to use up all that stuff because I didn't like some of the other products and I didn't want to spend the money. They lasted forever. So yes, they're expensive, but it lasted forever. But this is amazing. Do you guys have this? This is how you get it out. It is so cool. You push down and you just get a tiny little bit. And you don't squeeze it in your hand and get too much sometimes and not enough the rest of the time. Isn't that awesome? And I just ordered another thing for my little neck because my mom's all big on neck, you know, taking care of your neck. So this is Ultra Smoothing Neck Repair. Same thing. Someone must have patented this and now they can all use it. Like it must have been under like wraps or something. Same little hole. Look at that. I mean, I just thought that was awesome. This one is Crepe Erase. I'm trying this new brand too for my neck because it's crepey. Whatever. It is better. I used to have 2 big lines. And I've been putting a little bit of neck stuff on every night or morning. And, but gosh, so go look for the little gadget because that is going to save me so much like over product use. Just tiny little bit comes out. All right, I got to take a break for a second. What am I knitting right now? I am working on my Crofthus hat. I showed you guys that colorway, right? And I am working on the ribbing. And so it's got all these colors in it. So you have multiple ends that you're gonna have to weave in, but I love knitting that. So that should be fun. A week from, well, this coming up Thursday, back up to the lake. Kylie and Stevie are joining us and we are going to be going up to fish. So it'll be a knitting weekend. So I think I will probably work on this in the car. It should be kind of fun to do that. And then I had knit a sweater a while back from the bottom up, joined in the round, started knitting the yoke, and the color work was not showing up at all. So it has literally been in my whips for a long time. And I had this idea to put this chart on it instead. So here's the chart that I made. And then I want you guys to tell me kind of how long it takes you. Like if you just saw this out in the wild, would you get it? Would you kind of get the gist, the inside? So this is what it's gonna say with a capital K around the yoke, front and back. Won't that be fun? Really fun? I went round and round about what I could put on that yoke just for fun. And that's what I'm gonna put. So let me know in the comments down below if you get it. Oh, right. What have I been watching? I watched The Last Thing He Told Me. That's that series that they did. I had to do a 1 week free subscription. I read the book. It's a fascinating story about a man who disappears and leaves behind his wife and stepdaughter. And it came out as in episodes. Very good. Even though I knew what was going to happen. Then I watched The Morning Show this last season. Another quick interruption. A friend dropped off some knitting books and then my husband came home from the grocery store. So I'm trying to keep it together here and figure out where I'm at. I am going to see Amy of La Bien-Aimée at Darn It Anyway on Friday night, June 16th. So maybe some of you will be there. I'm going with a group of friends, so that should be really fun. I'm also going to head to Sioux Falls that weekend to see my mom and dad. My mom had her shoulder replaced. Dad's been doing a great job of taking care of her, but I've wanted to go for about a month. And we just had these trips planned and teaching, and yeah, so just finished up teaching at the library, and yeah, so that would be good to get that done. A couple of things I saw on the internet. Matt shared the YouTube video with Stephen West's home tour in Amsterdam. So if you would like the link for that, that is amazing to see the colors that he put together in his home, where he has all of his knitting stuff. But yeah, it's maybe I can't remember, maybe a 10-minute, 12-minute, 15-minute video, something like that. So that was really good. So I have the link in the show notes. And then Matt gave me this little gadget for my birthday. So I'll put the link for this. This is like a pill case. But look at how cool this is. It's magnetic. Isn't that neat? Yeah. So, and then he had a little scissors and some stitch markers in there. That was my birthday gift. He just kept forgetting to give it to me, he said. And then he had... And then he had this pin. Can you see what it says? It says, "Get knit faced," which is so awesome. So I'm gonna put that on my little pin rack with all my knitting pins. So I'll have a link. Matt sent me the link to where he got that on Amazon. So if you're looking for a little holder. If you've not heard, Stitches, the company XRX Books out of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, which is where I'm from, filed bankruptcy, and basically from one day to the next closed their company, shut up shop, provided no forwarding information, no emails, no lawyer information, and just said, we're done. And they owe lots of people lots of money. So there are teachers who taught at Stitches in May that have not got paid. There are vendors who have rented booths for the upcoming events that were supposed to happen in Minneapolis in August and in the fall, and those vendors are out that money. So there has been a bit of a push on Instagram for people to go and support some of those vendors who lost, some of them thousands and thousands of dollars. So buy some products from them. I know Lavender Loon had a yarn sale. Yumi Yarns was posting a lot of information about different people you could help. But there is a Bloomberg Law report, an article online that you can read all about what happened. And they're not going about it in the best of ways. They're basically, there's no recourse. They're saying our lawyers will be in touch, but they're not giving who the lawyers are. They just shut their doors and let their people go. It's really, really sad. After all these years that they would continue to take money from people, knowing that they were in dire financial straits, because that does not come as an unexpected surprise when you're going to file bankruptcy like that. So that's poor business practice. So I have the link. It's called Screwed by Stitches, and you can just Google that too. It comes under the Bloomberg Law report. And there's a whole article. They interviewed people who lost money, and so you could go out and support some of those people. I just wanted to share. And then this morning, in unrelated topic, Zandy Peters on Instagram unboxed an ottoman to hide some of her knitting projects in. And the ottoman is knit stitch themed. And so they're nesting. One goes inside the other, and you pull it out. And so she got these two navy blue round ottomans, like little sitting stools, but they're empty on the inside. The lid comes off and you could put your knitting projects in them. And so you can go over and look at Zandy Peters on Instagram, but I will also have the link to the Amazon ottoman if you're interested in that. So you get two large ottomans to hold whatever you want, but they look like a cable knits sweater on them. So that was kind of cool. And then she also linked in her profile some blocking wires, some really inexpensive blocking wires on Amazon. So I copied down that link and put that here for you too. Also, I saw a woman who did a reel on Instagram about changing yarn colors, and it is so cool. It is no knots, and she switches from one color to the next without tying a knot, and she can just move her way across by knitting. She doubles the yarn over. It's just fascinating. It's such an interesting concept, and I love it. I think it will make a lot of people's lives much easier. So I do want to share that, as well as I have a link for a Russian grafting, which is an alternative to Kitchener. And that was a YouTube video and really interesting. If you hate Kitchener stitch and you want to understand this one, it's called Russian grafting.
You pick one stitch here, off the needle, pull it through. One stitch there, off the needle, and pull it through.
And so those are my 2 tips and tricks off to Instagram this week. They both came from Instagram, and I found them both really fascinating. I saved them both on my phone, so it's very easy for me to go back and look them up. All right, let's do the audiobooks of the week real quick. Wastelands, The True Story of Farm Country on Trial by Corbin Addison. This was really hard for me to read because my brother works for Smithfield. And this is the story of how Smithfield came in and made huge hog operations in North Carolina, damaged the neighborhoods, the water, the air, the soil, the ground, and how these people tried to fight Smithfield to get them to cover up some of the retaining ponds, to fumigate, to not spray the spray and have it douse the wind drift, take it into their houses, the sewage. It's a really interesting, it follows about 20 years of these families trying to get some justice. And if you followed any of that, or from the eastern part of North Carolina, that this company owned by China. Then I read Your Table is Ready, Tales of a New York City Maitre d'. 5. It was good. I liked it. He tells a lot of stories about being in the restaurant business in New York City, and how they're treated, and how the employees are not always treated well, but how hard they work, and trying to work your way up, and then going to another restaurant, trying to work your way up, and how they're treated by their employers as well. Yeah, I wouldn't say that it was sad, but it was a bummer, and he loved the business. He just loved the business. He was an actor who ended up working Michael Ciacci Azzolina. So it left me feeling kind of bummed, right? The stories were good, though. He's a good storyteller. Then I read Luck and Last Resorts, which is a romance, and I thought, I don't know about this. It was so good. I really liked it. Once I got into it, I thought, do I want to read another romance? But they just come due in my Libby, and so then I just read whatever's next. And the last one is called The Adventurer's Son by Roman Dial. This is a guy who climbs mountains and, taught his children to climb mountains and do high-risk adventure travel and see the world and kind of live off grid in Alaska, and then his son goes missing, and so they're trying to find him, and it's a really good story. I could see this being turned into a major motion picture. There is a documentary about it, but apparently, according to the dad, it was not very accurate, and they tried to make it very all these things that weren't necessarily true. And he went ahead with the documentary thinking that it would bring awareness to them trying to find their son who had gone missing on this hike, on this traveling adventure, and they didn't know where he was exactly. But it didn't ring true to him. So yeah, that was good too. So I kind of read a really serious dark, and then a little lighter, and then a really serious dark, and then a little lighter, which is maybe the best way to do those things. Let me tell you a couple little Cori stories here. This is going to be a long one. I'm going to have to really edit. We went away for Memorial Day at the lake. I posted a picture. How many projects do you take when you're going away for 5 days, which ends up being 4 days because my husband always wants to come back early. And I jided him about that a little bit, but he was fished out. He caught 45 walleye in the 4 days. He fished Thursday night, Friday morning, Friday afternoon, Friday evening, Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon, Saturday evening. And he came in and he was like, you can't keep them all. You can only keep, certain sizes, but he had caught so many. He caught northern and perch, and he's like, I just think it would be nice. We could go home early. That way we can pick up Chevy because, we need to get back to him, and then we'll have a day at home to kind of unpack and do some things. And so we did come home a day early. And I didn't get nearly as much. I did not finish this. I really wanted to finish it. I was working on a friend's shawl who had been struggling with a shawl, and I needed to knit a section of lace on a 400 stitch shawl, which is fun because I hadn't knit the rest of the shawl. But so I did that one night, and then I worked on some of my hat a little bit. Mostly I was just working on the color work of this and getting that, trying to get it close to being finished. I had one sleeve left when I got home. So yeah, didn't have too much more to do. Chevy is doing great, much better, although I'm taking him in on Wednesday because he's got a goopy eye, and he's had a goopy eye for a while, and my husband thinks I'm overacting, but I'm okay. I'm gonna be the neurotic mother because last night it was kind of green, and I think he's got something in there. So I took a picture of it to show the vet in case we get there and it's not as goopy, because I wipe it all the time and it's crusty. And anyway, so that's going to be on Wednesday. Yeah. So we have been, getting organized around here. We had a landscape guy come out, and he's going to do some trimming and weeding. Our hedge just looks terrible after the winter. And so Ross was like, well, we've lived here 17 years and, they'll probably have to tear it out and put in a new one. And the guy came, he's like, no, I'm cutting out all that wood. You've got all kinds of dead wood in there and it'll be fine. We're going to get it all out of there. We're like, well, okay. Then we went and bought a new big Black Hills spruce to put in the backyard because I want Christmas trees in my backyard, which I've wanted for a while, just like the lights. It eventually happens. So we put up the lights on the deck, and then we went over to the nursery and we bought a 8-foot Black Hills. We're going to buy one a year, add them to the backyard. So we did get that done. And then he was out on the deck and I was helping. And so I was going in and out. So I was watering the plants in our sunroom. Like we have like a 4-season porch on the back of our house right here. And I've got a bunch of plants in there. And so I try to remember to water them every Monday, but I always forget. And so I was like, you know what? I have to water the tomatoes on the deck. I'll just water these plants. And so I'm going around and I water them all the time. They're thriving. The whole plant stand fell over. I have 2 plant stands, one tall one and one like short one. And I don't think I knocked the whole thing. 2 planters broke, dirt everywhere. I'm screaming. My husband comes in and he's like, oh my God, what a mess, right? Like the plants had half fallen out. We're trying to scoop up and save, and it made a huge mess in the middle of you trying to do other projects. And I feel like that is what happens to me all the time. I am a walking little accident. It constantly, if I'm getting in my car, I'm going to catch my purse handle on the knob on the door. Every day, every day something happens where I'm like, of course that happened to me. It's just, I just have this weird, I don't know if I'm not always paying close enough attention to my details in my life or what. I couldn't believe I knocked this over. I mean, he's sweating out there. He's hanging my lights. He's screwing in the boards to make the poles. He's doing all this stuff, and then he has to come in and like we're trying to carry him out without getting dirt all over. It's just a mess. I felt so bad. It was just, one more thing. So that done. It was so wet here this spring that we are so green and so lush. But now we haven't had rain for a while. So we really need we really need some more rain. I have to go to puppy playtime here in just a couple minutes, so I will edit this tomorrow. The winner of the t-shirt from last week is Amber Keller. So Amber, I know you, and I'm pretty sure I probably have your address, but just in case I don't, I will put this in the mail to you. It's the one that said extra large, and it's actually like small. But you had t-shirt. I did a search for random number generator for anybody who put t-shirt in their comment, and Amber's name came up. And then I am going to give away, oh, I forgot to get the other thing. Well, I have something else to give away with this. So next week, I'm going to give away this skein of yarn, and I'll show you what else, because I didn't get it out and I'm not getting up right now. The question that you have to answer in the comments, if you want to win this skein of yarn and a surprise, is if you have 3 hours to do anything in the summertime, what do you choose? You have 3 hours free. What do you choose? What's the thing that you would choose to do in the summertime? I have a ton of new teaching gigs. So very quickly, they're always on my website. If you are local and you are looking for my When Knitting Goes Wrong class, fixing mistakes in knitting, 3-hour class, learning how to fix from beginner all the way up to advanced, dropping down cables, etc. I am teaching it on June 21st, July something in Edina, June 21st in Woodbury, something in July at Harry and Alice, but the date didn't work, so now she's getting back to me. July 19th at Stephen B, July 22nd at B Woolen, where I'm also teaching in the afternoon my Ravelry class, and August 18th at Darn It Anyway. I'm also having local Knitting with Cori groups at my home, June 12th, 14, 15, 19, 22, 26, and 29, for beginner knitters who want to start their next project, or people who want to cast on a project and need help. So it's called Anything Goes. You can bring anything to any one of those classes, and you can register by emailing me. I do that usually every summer for the month of June, just to get people kind of going so that they have something to work on. They want to start a new project. They want to pick my brain, like, what can I do next? This is what I've done before, and I need a new idea or whatever. So they can come to my house. I have a hard time finding somewhere to do it that I don't have to pay for. So I was just like, screw it, we're having it at my house this year. I got a puppy at home who has to go to the bathroom. So that usually is not what I do, but okay. I think that is everything finally. You can support me 100% this week by just buying my pattern. That would be awesome. I want to make the biggest donation at the end of June. And both those patterns, I will donate that money in perpetuity. So anytime you want to go back and buy those patterns, it doesn't have, like, someone said to me, you know what, I don't get paid till next week, but I want to pay the full price. And I said, it's not a problem. It's the whole month of June. And I really wanted to donate $500, but I think it's going to be way more than that. It would just be that would just make my heart so happy. The blankets patterns went to Knit Picks. They are in their processing, so I'm not going to share those this week, but that pattern set will come out, and I did pick a winner off of Instagram. I asked people to name the collection, and you know what? I wrote down like 7 names of different things that I'm going to call in the future, and if I use yours with your name, then there's some things coming up in the future that I could ut your name for, but I'm going to call this particular blanket collection Cover Me With Sunshine. And that was put out there by Amy. And so I will be getting in touch with you, Amy, to let you know that you will get that blanket collection free from me as soon as it comes out, because I don't know about this Knit Picks process. At this point, I'm thinking maybe they'll hold it until their fall catalog, because they're blankets, right? And so they might. I can put the patterns out almost any time, but I kind of want that to do it at roughly, I don't know. I got to figure that out, but they will be in touch. I will end with a couple of darling pictures of Chevy, because he's getting so big. Maybe I'll put in a little video of puppy playtime. Until next time, keep it covered for everyone. Come in for your hug. squeezes. Love you all. Some of you wrote really nice comments again last week. I responded to some of them. I still have some to get through before tomorrow when I put this up. I'm gonna finish doing the comments from last time because we were gone and I don't have good internet up there. Plus I just don't want to be on the internet the whole time I'm away, and I want to get everything done so that this week when we go away, Kylie and Stevie come to meet us for part of that time, that I don't have to feel like I'm on the computer or my phone, although I am all the time anyway. All right, bye. Love you all.
So it won't be so cold in the afternoon. Come here.
Hi everybody. Hello from up north Minnesota. We arrived at Lake Winnipegosh about 2 o'clock this afternoon. We unloaded into our little cabin at the resort we'd love to come to, and I did a little knitting, and then my husband had launched the fishing boat and he went out fishing, and it's a little windy, so there's a good chop which is like telling him I did the ribbing and the lace work. So he's out, and I texted and said, do you want to go for a walk with me? Because usually if he spends quite a bit of time in the boat, then he'll come in and say, let's go do a good walk. And he said, the fish are biting. So I'm walking alone, but look at this glorious road and the huge pine trees, tons of quaking trees. I'm going to turn you around. I love these quaking trees that shimmer in the wind. To plant itself in northern Minnesota and then sprout and grow into a tree without any cultivation or soil improvements or anything like that. And then, oh, the wind died. But then they grow into something like that one. Kind of spindly, but when the wind blows, it's just glorious. Now I am coming up to a little driveway off this main road, which just goes back into the woods a ways. And I am unsure about whether that is actually a trail or if there is a cabin back there. There's no sign out here and no mailbox, so my guess is it's an access trail and that I could walk it, but mosquitoes! So it is about 5:30 in the evening, and we were going to eat at 6, but I don't think he'll come in. And he usually goes out for late evening fishing, which is usually really good, about 8 o'clock, and then he'll come back in about 9:30. And everyone kind of gathers in the lodge and has ice cream or pizza. Sometimes the men have a beer. They'll talk about their fishing day. And so, although an introvert, he likes to do that because people will talk about where the fish are at. Here's another feature that is amazing to me, that they have run lines through the forest and cut down just enough to get in there with equipment, and now they let it grow back up. But if the snow or a windstorm knocks down part of that, someone has to come take care of these people who live up here. Here's another one of those little roads that goes back in there, but mailboxes. So I know that there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 cabins down that road. And my guess is most of them are summer homes, and they are probably the ones that are out on the point on Lake Winnebagosh, which is one of the largest lakes in the state. Minnesota, land of 10,000 lakes. The glaciers were very good to us, left beautiful deep blue lakes. However, Winnebagosh is a dam. They dammed up the Mississippi River, so we were just past where the Mississippi starts and then flows all the way to Louisiana. And so they did dam it up years ago, and it is a giant lake of wonderful fishing. We are fortunate enough to see tons of eagles up here, which is amazing. I should have turned that around first. Can you see them? They're soaring way above me on the road. I have to keep moving so that they don't think that I am roadkill. Only one of those looked to be an eagle over far to the right. So they drop down and fish in the lake, which is an amazing thing to see. But they nest in the really tall pine trees, and so sometimes you will see them. That being said, I'm not a huge fan of the giant lake and the little boat. I've been caught out in bad weather more than once, and so I'm much more of a knitter and a reader. That doesn't go very well in the boat when people are trying to fish and catch fish, so I mostly stay in the cabin and just knit. I will sign off here. I do like to have a little chitter chatter on my walk when I'm walking alone, as you all know, because I do this often. I was listening to my audiobook, The Adventurer's Son, and yeah, then I just think, oh, I should talk to somebody. So you get me. I will maybe see you again in the next couple of days.